Big day here between the sharks. I bought myself a birthday present and it just arrived. All right, gang. I don't order from Mr. Bezos very often, but there are times where he's got, the product you need for the price that you're willing to pay. And this is one of those times. Clearly, since you're on the YouTubes, there's an 86% chance you're gonna be familiar with what we've got in this box. All right, there you go. The BTC 5000 DP blah, 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 Bestarc Plasma Cutter. All right, gang, so we're not gonna focus too much on the unboxing or even a review for review's sake on this because, well, you're on YouTube, obviously, right now. So you already know that this thing has been reviewed ad nauseum, which is why it's the machine I purchased. So what we're gonna do is drag it out. I'm gonna see if I can get it set up on top of this little 110 MIG so that it's mobile, and then we're gonna put it straight to work. I've got a project that should be enough of a challenge for it right out the gate, which is getting the rivets out of the other side of this cross member. I drilled and ground and fought those. That's how I normally get them out. It's a pain in the butt. I wanna see if I can just blow the rivets right out. I've done it with an acetylene torch before, so I ought to be able to do it with a plasma torch. If you're living on Earth, anywhere, kind of like I am, your weather's probably crazy too. We're near the first day of spring. It was in the 70s in February, and look at that cute little thing. It's so cute. It's tiny. So back in the day, I had a hand-me-down plasma cutter. It was a real Miller. It was affectionately known as Mr. Burns. So if this works out, maybe this will be Mini Mr. Burns or Mr. Burns 2. It comes in my color. If you haven't noticed, I dig on this. My first Model T was this color, and my truck's kind of this color, and my house is kind of this color, so that's a win. Now this is worth noting because this thing is modern day size, which is, the size of a large lunchbox, smaller than a briefcase, if anybody has those anymore. But like my TIG, for example, is late 90s Lincoln. It's enormous. It's a great machine, but if you bought a new Lincoln, it would be like that size and probably do just about all the same work. So, Mr. Burns, I fixed it up. It was a hand-me-down. It was a scratch start, so like you had to be on clean metal, and I work on rusty junk, so that's usually not the most beneficial. This is the Pilot Arc whatever, so it will fire without touching anything, which is super cool, which means it'll cut through paint and rust, which is the world that we live in around here between the sharks. So it's this and this box of stuff. So I got an air hose. Oh wow, look at that. They gave you the Teflon tape, hose clamps, ground, fine gun, adapter. Not bad. All right, gang, I bought this for all the same reasons as everybody else. If you don't know what those are, just look up Bestarc Plasma Cutter. It'll show you the different options, but the shortest version is it comes with all the stuff you need. It's 110 or 220 ready to go. For those of you that don't have 220, it's not hard to do. If you have power nearby your garage, you can get 220 cheap. It's just not a big deal. If you don't know how to do it, put it in the comments and we'll run a 220 circuit all together and just show you how it is. But dual voltage, so if it has to travel, it can. Obviously, it's got to have an air compressor, so traveling with it might not be all that easy, but maybe get a portable air tank and just cut a little bit somewhere out on the road. But it has the air pressure regulator on front, which is nice, so you don't have to go back to the air compressor to adjust your thingies. Another feature that everybody else points out is it has a water separator attached to it. It's kind of low profile, which is nice, so it won't get broken off. And then it comes with the adapter, which is a savings in your total cost if you're buying a cheaper one. It comes with a common torch, so the expendables are inexpensive, and that's that. So now I just got to get it set up to make sure it works the way it's supposed to do, and it's not just a dud, because if it's a dud, we'll send it back and hope that we don't get 2 duds. Well, gang, the instructions are garbage, but that's all right because they supply a fella with these little pictures, and the doodads only go in one place. So even a regular Bubba can just look at the picture and guess and like put the square peg in the square hole, good to go. Granted, Several hours have passed though, because I got nervous because you have to keep these things super dry. Meaning you don't want water running through your air lines. I live in a very humid climate. Guaranteed to have water in my lines. I looked and looked for one of these doodads, air filter, water remover outer thingies from the last time I painted a car, which was a million years ago. Didn't have it, so I had to go buy one. Then I decided to go get all the adapters and whoop-de-doos to make my drain on the bottom of the compressor better, which meant a trip to the Home Depot on a Sunday. And gang, maybe you're those people, maybe you know those people. But if you're gonna go to Home Depot on a Sunday and you're gonna bring your kids and your dog, bring someone who can actually do the shopping so that you can manage the kids and the dog. Like, I like dogs, I like kids, but Home Depot's a hardware store. Take your kids and your dog to the park. Let's hook up our compressor with all its new doodads, and hopefully I got the right fittings. And this isn't a 2 trip to the hardware store a day, which it's close enough to plumbing, and that takes 3 trips, so we'll see. Dude. That's a lot of lead, actually. I'm pretty impressed. So I just grabbed a chunk of, I don't know, box steel 2x2. I did grind it a little bit because I wanted a good ground to make sure that, you know, for the first go that we know that that's not the issue. This is whatever the pilot or not, basically it'll fire off without being grounded, but that basically just creates a loop back to this thing, which, you know, you don't want this cable carrying what this cable should be carrying for too long. I've got it connected via its adapter to my 220. So 15 amps, all right. Weird, interesting, interesting. Oh, okay, it just keeps cycling around up to 50. I don't think we need anything like that. I'm gonna go ahead and try it at 25, which is half juice. Cut, I don't know what that means, but we'll find out later. I'm gonna try this for a second and see what the air pressure really is. All right. Looks like it's around 60 when it's actually flowing. That's good enough. I'm gonna grab the welding helmet and we're gonna try it. All right, so it's my understanding that water vapor will fry the expendables, and that only comes with 2 spares over the time that these machines have been being made. This is generation 3. Generation 3 does not come with as many expendables as the previous generation, so I need to order some, but I wanted to make sure the machine worked. So we've got water filtration at the compressor and the water separator on the back of the machine that it comes with, which is pretty handy. Let's see if it'll burn a hole. Yep, it'll make a hole. Look at this. That's 25 amps, it's halfway through. It's clearly overpowered for what it's doing right there, which is pretty awesome. Plasma cutting has a particular smell. It's a different kind of burning metal smell. It's kind of like oxyacetylene, but there's no extra carbon. Yeah, I'm jazzed on this. I'm gonna see if I can blow the center out of some rivets, which should be interesting, because I haven't messed with one of these in a long time, but I guess we're gonna try it. So I've gone ahead and ground the tops off of 2 rivets from the partial cross member that was left. This other side here, I ground down and then drilled out and hammered out with a punch. So I wanna see if I can poke through with this plasma torch. Now, this is not something they like to do. Basically when you're plunge cutting with an acetylene torch or a plasma torch, until you get through, it's kind of bouncing stuff back up at the tip. So I may ruin an expendable here, fully aware of that. But I want to try it. So, because I hate drilling out rivets. Let's find out if it works. I'm just gonna see if I can line this up with the center of the rivet and just hammer on it. The instructions say for plunge cutting to like start at an angle and lean into it. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna line it up over the center of the rivet and just give it hell. Let's see what happens. I mean, did not nearly have it set high enough. So I guess that makes sense. The question is, do I want to really get after it? Or do I wanna see what happens if I hit it with a hammer right now? See what happens if I hit it with a hammer. I mean, I've got 25 more amps to go. Maybe we'll try that too. We're gonna do the wrong thing. We cranked up the air and the amps. I mean, it's definitely digging a hole in there. I don't feel great about it though. Considering this is a cheap plasma torch thing, but 300 bucks is nothing, no matter what you're spending it on or whatever. So relative to other plasma cutters, this thing is cheap, but cheap's relative, right? That's still a lot of money. So I'm gonna hit it with a hammer. It clearly will do what I'm asking it to do. I just don't feel good about asking it to do it, if that makes any sense. Just being precious about my new toy. All right, so forgive the compressor running out back. Apparently, we are really going to test this plasma cutter. I drilled out the rivets like I was supposed to, but it turns out they welded the boxing plate to the back side of this. Not a good weld, but enough that I can't really get in there. So I'm gonna take the plasma cutter to it and see if I can cut this thing out. It's a perfect situation for one. The metal's reasonably thick. I can't get a grinder all the way into where I need to get a grinder, so let's see if we can cut it into little pieces and remove it, like lickety split. So I'm gonna try to do this in real time. I'm gonna put the camera down and have at it. I am not unimpressed. Dang, I mean, it's an ugly cut, but I was out of position. I couldn't really see much of anything, but it did the job. Straight out of the box and into service. It took me moments to set this up. I had a little bit to do on my air compressor, but that's my own fault. We did one cut on some rusty metal with no straight edge. It turned out just fine. Next thing we did was try to blast through some rivets, which I think it would have done if I had been willing to really put it through the paces. And then we cut through a Model A crossmember. Rusty metal covered in many layers of paint. And I did it out of position with the torch floating, like a lot of things wrong. Technically they can do them, but you know, the further your arc gets away from your surface, like it wants to be basically against the surface, and the air blows through and it creates the plasma and makes a hole. But it did it. It did it all. It never tripped a breaker or shut down. Now granted, I am running it on 220, and I think that you should plan to if you're gonna buy even a cheap one. There are a ton of reviews on this. If I remember, I will put the video that I watched that sold me on this unit. But now that it's here and it's functioning, I am very pleased with the purchase. Welcome to the family, Mr. Burns. Well, good luck on your projects out there. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do it. Really helps out. And we'll see you next time when we do something else. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. Hopefully it'll be warmer too.